In this video, we're going to underwrite a 22-unit apartment complex in Kansas City, Kansas, to see if it hits all of our investing criteria. This is an 8-week series we're calling it Will It Cash Flow. We've partnered with our amazing affiliates and products that we use to give away some amazing prizes, but also underwrite properties real time live with you. If you're watching this sometime in the middle or in February of 2023, there's a chance that you still have there's a chance. Just saying there's a chance. There's a chance that you have an opportunity to still register and attend these calls live and win some of the amazing prizes. So let's get into it. If you and I have met before, you can skip ahead. This is for people we don't know each other, right? So I want to tell you a little bit about me. I am a husband, I'm a father, founder of the W2 Capitalist. But the most interesting thing about me, probably should have started with that. The most interesting thing about me is how I met my wife. This is my wife, Cassie, and our 3 kids. Cassie and I actually met as contestants on a reality TV show. 2008, both found ourselves in different parts of the world. We came together on this TV show that was filmed in Costa Rica. We spent about 6 weeks in Costa Rica, came back and realized we couldn't do life without one another. So that's the most interesting thing about me, is how we met. But I am a former W2 employee. I spent 20 years in the W2 world. I grew up in Northeast Alabama. I graduated college with a whopping 2.57 GPA, so nothing really to be too excited about. This is a little bit of our timeline, some kind of big numbers here when it comes to or not big numbers, but big milestones when it comes to the W2 Capitalist. I am a financial freedom achiever, real estate investor. We live a nomadic lifestyle with our family of 5. We've been doing that for about 2 years now. In addition to founding the W2 Capitalist, I'm also an Amazon bestseller. But none of that really matters, right? What matters the most, given today's topic, I feel like, is my real estate investing experience. So I want to show you a little bit about what our current portfolio looks like. And I say kind of, because this is our entire portfolio. A couple of those exited this week. It's been a really busy week around here for real estate transactions. There's one that's not on there, actually, which is a kind of cool thing. And these are the fully cycled positions that we've held in the past, right? Before we get into the underwriting, I'm sure you've probably seen this or heard this before. I'm not a certified financial planner. I'm going to refer you to Lake Growth, Mark Willis, who does that for me, to talk to him about that. I am not a tax expert. This is for entertainment purposes only. That's what this slide talks about. And this is what this next slide talks about as well. Basically just advising you to every investment carries risk. Make sure you're aware of those risks before you make any investment whatsoever. All right. Business stuff out of the way. There's one exercise I want to do with you guys, because I was recently introduced. This is a form of, you've probably all heard, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with. Well, this exercise really puts sheds a light on that. It really puts a huge spotlight on that. And we did this at W2 CapCon last month. It was a month ago today, actually, or a month ago tomorrow. Anyway, nonetheless, not too long ago. And so what we did is we took out a white sheet of paper, right? Or just any kind of sheet of paper. I was going to do it on this, but it's going to be hard for you guys to see. And at the top, you're going to put out 2 columns, right? And I do this with a lot of folks who we interview to come into the W2 Capitalist Mastermind community, complain, hey, I'm not growing. I don't know what to do. I'm just struggling to see any kind of path of reaching my goals, right? And so this is one of the first exercises that I do with them. And I've adopted this from Scott Groves, who I think he gives reference to Hal Elrod for this. But basically, you have growth friends and you have maintenance relationships, right? And the way that we're going to define growth friends are people who motivate you. By the way, I'm going to ask you to get out your phones here in just a minute, right? But growth friends are people who motivate you. They're doing great things in life, right? They're also trying to build their wealth. They're extremely hungry to grow their wealth like you are. And they want to hold you accountable to see you succeed, right? So those are growth friends. Everybody else, for the sake of this exercise, is a maintenance relationship. Okay. So just think about those 2 things. Think about people that motivate you, people that are hungry to grow their wealth, right? They're doing great things in life, somewhat maybe envious of kind of the things they're doing, right? They also hold you accountable because they want to see you succeed. Okay, that's growth friends. Everybody else is a maintenance relationship. Now, get out your phone and go to your most recent calls and go down the top 30, right, of your most recent calls, and everybody that you called or everybody who's called you and you spent time talking to them, you put them in one of these two columns. Is that person a growth friend or is that a maintenance relationship, right? When you get through with the phone calls, go to your text messages, just do the top 30 text conversations you've had and see where you land. And if you're struggling to grow, if you're struggling to see a path to success, I am willing to bet you're really heavy on maintenance relationships. And some of you may be getting down to, hey, here's a relative, here's a brother, here's a sister, here's a mom, here's a dad. And you're like, man, they're not a growth friend, but I don't want to put them on the maintenance relationships. You need to put them there, right? You need to put them in whatever bucket they are in. And so y'all just take the next couple minutes as I'm kind of scrolling through here, telling you about Steadily and our awesome partners and kind of getting set up and handing this off, and go through that exercise. Because what I want to do is if you're struggling with growth friends columns, right, then you need to join a mastermind. You need to join a community where these folks reside, and you need to plug yourself in and get involved with them, right? To where those top 30 phone calls are now growth friends and you have almost zero maintenance relationships, right? To me, that is the true way to grow your net worth, right? It's kind of back to the old saying, you're kind of marrying the two. You are the average of the 5 people you hang around with the most. With your network is your net worth, right? And that's what this exercise highlights. So, all right, we're almost done. We're almost to the underwriting call. I got to give it another shout out to Steadily. They're giving away a I almost said $250,000 Amazon gift card. They don't even go that high. It's a $250 Amazon gift card to today's winner. But they do insure 20 of our 21 self-managed rentals. The 21 are insured. Yeah. The 21st one is a B&B in Florida. And they can't do that one. Not the rates that they gave us. So everything else, I love them. They're amazing. I've got to produce a video about how I got introduced to them and the chaos that was around that and how they were the calm in the middle of the storm and ended up saving my partners, several thousands of dollars on our annual premium for a property we had that was, anyway, I'm going to go into more detail about that later. So that's it. Let me stop sharing this screen. Let's jump over to the underwriting call and we'll go from there. To Scott, go ahead and drop the property address in the chat and then we'll show DealCheck. And one of the things, we were talking about last week, for those of you who weren't here, is how DealCheck is a really it's a somewhat kind of an intermediate between a napkin test and a full-blown spreadsheet. And I use it because it helps me really quickly underwrite to see if I want to entertain it. If I even want to bring out the massive spreadsheet, and I'm going to show you that here in a minute. We may not dive into it, but as you see, there's a lot of different tabs that go into this. But typically when I run this through DealCheck, I know pretty instantly if it's what I'm going to do with it. So Scott's looking up the address. And
no, it's just that I can't give it to you until I join on a computer. Can I tell it to you instead? That would be much easier for me.
Yeah.
Okay. It is.
This meeting is being recorded.
Thanks. 1908 North 77th Street, Kansas City.
Now, is that Missouri or Kansas?
Oddly enough, this one is in Kansas.
All right, let's see what happens here. If you notice, I bring this up on the FEMA flood map.
That hurts. That hurts.
I posted the link in the community just so you have it. This is actually where I start for most properties. I didn't do this last week. This is actually where I start for most properties because I don't invest in properties that are in flood zones. But if you do, you kind of want to know this. And Scott, this is not a punch at you, but even though we were just talking about it, is if you may need to underwrite and add flood insurance.
Your lender shows up on day 30 and says you need to. Yes.
Yeah. So it could definitely happen. So it does not look like this would be in a flood zone. And the way you would know that is if it was covered in blue. I'll show you a property here that if it was covered in blue or orange would be considered in a flood zone.
Here, I can give you one that's in a flood zone.
Well, I think this is the one I looked up earlier. Grady, this is I think this is Drive. This is over near you.
Yeah, one thing I was gonna say is I've been thinking about moving to Florida, but I also don't want to move somewhere that's gonna be underwater in like 2040. So does this map kind of help with that?
Yeah, it's very, I found it to be very accurate. Sometimes it takes a while to refresh, but it'll come up in just a second. And it depends on where you're looking to move in Florida. So Grady and I are in the Panhandle, and if you're above I-10, you're kind of safe from, you're more safe, I guess, than from the hurricanes and everything else. You still need to look at rivers and streams and floods and rivers and streams and whatnot. That's why I kind of look at this map. And of course, it's not demoing very well.
What about Miami?
Here.
That gets hit by hurricanes a lot, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing about hurricanes, Grady, if he's been here a lot longer than I have, hurricanes, they're not as bad as the Weather Channel dramatically makes them out to be, but you just, if anything above a 2, like we're getting out of Dodge, right? Our family personally. I don't know why this is not showing up, but what should show up, because this is an old neighborhood that we used to live in. Part of it's in the flood zone, part of it's not. But Helena, yeah, you kind of depend on, it is flood insurance and hurricane and wind insurance is a big factor for owning a property in Florida. Okay, there it goes. Now you see what's in blue and orange is considered in a flood zone. So a lot of it in this particular neighborhood. Yes, so that's what that looks like different. That's how that looks different than Scott's.
Yeah, the
property.
biggest factor with the hurricanes is how close you are to the water.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Jay, the website is msc.fema.gov, and then you just put in a search.
Yes. And Cynthia, I posted that in our community in one of Scott's posts. I tell you what, I'll grab that now and I'll put it in the chat as well.
Thank you, sir.
Let me get a clean. I really wish Zoom would do something with their windows. Maybe I should do something with it. There we go. Okay. I also think it's funny that when you put in it shows you the whole US, it looks like the entire country is in a flood zone. So you definitely got to drill down by address, but I'll drop that in the chat for you guys to bookmark. That is typically where I stop and or start when I'm looking at any property. And Scott, I'm going to need that address from you one more time, sir.
No problem. I've got it up on the other screen. 1908 North 77th Street.
1908 North
77th
Street. All right. So if you're not familiar with DealCheck, I do want to show this real quick before we import or add a property. We're going to go over here to purchase criteria. Now they do, this software allows you to do BRRRRs or flips or wholesales. You can analyze all those. I don't do BRRRRs. I don't do flips or wholesale. Well, I do BRRRRs, but not very rare. So we primarily focus on the rental market. So you come in here and you can add your purchase criteria. For the sake of this, I've kind of had this really narrowed down for the sake of this exercise, but you can kind of get a sense of how you can instantly know if a property is going to hit your criteria or not, right? And so you can put in all the stuff that you want to put in here. For the sake of this, you can see where I've got certain things checked. Those are typically important to us as our investing criteria. But let's go back to add a property. We're just simply going to tap on add property. We're going to leave the default rental template. And we're going to start typing in the address 1908 North. North 77th Street, Kansas City, Kansas, right? I'm going to do a search. Comes back. Waiting on Ray. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, you still sound funny with the accent, but yes, we can hear you.
Accent. The country redneck Alabama accent?
Yeah.
Not that one.
Not that one. That's the Florida one. Florida man accent.
All right. It didn't like that address for some reason. There we go. Okay. It's got an apartment 1. So one of the things before we get into too much of this, I just want to look here. Not a whole lot of information that's going to be able to import on it. There's some photos, which is good. All right, so I see what's happened here. This has allowed it pulled the listing
For a single unit.
for a single unit, which means it's on the rental market, right? So they've got a unit that's advertised. I ran into this earlier, so it's okay. We're gonna import it anyway. We're gonna do a save and customize. Before we get into this purchase worksheet, we're gonna go to the property description and we're gonna change one thing. Instead of commercial, we're gonna change it to multifamily. Scott, do you know your built
1980, I think.
parking done, garage
Streets.
off street? Lot size, is that important to you?
No, not
Yeah.
really.
All right, total units. All right, we're gonna delete this. We're just gonna start over. We're gonna add how many
So
units.
there are 16 2-1s.
Okay. Don't care about square footage per unit, do we? Or do you?
No, not really.
Okay. And estimated gross rent?
They're currently renting at 700.
Okay.
And then there are 6 1-1s rented at 650.
One bedroom, one bath. You said those were 650, right?
Yep. Correct.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to go back to our purchase worksheet, which is where all the fun begins. I also want to show you guys this red X at the very top left-hand corner of this picture, right? That was imported. That shows us all of our purchase criteria that we had shown before, right? That we used before. It's kind of our default. And once we hit all of those criteria, initially when you're starting out, you shouldn't expect it to be green, but once we hit all of those, that red X, that big red X is going to turn into a green check mark, and you know that it's hitting your criteria. So just be mindful of that. Okay. Scott, what are we looking at on a purchase price?
1.6 is the asking.
It's the ask. Does not always mean that it is the target, right? After repair,
Same. No major repairs.
No major upgrades. Okay. Down payment, I'm assuming there's a 25% down payment.
Yep. That
Okay.
would be my assumption.
Interest rate.
I'd probably bump it up to 7 is what I'm assuming right now.
Okay. And that's with a 20 or 25-year amortization.
Let's stick to 25 because we have to negotiate them up to that.
Okay. Some defaults that are in here. We're not going to add a second loan. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you need to, right? But we're not going to. Some defaults that are in here: the purchase cost, 3% of the price, rehab costs. Scott, you just said nothing. I like to put something in there though, because when and you tell me if you've had a different experience, but anytime a property changes ownership, the tenants come out and they start saying, "Hey, I've had this issue for blah, 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 blah." And they just stack up, right? Like it's possibly they've never even reported it.
Right.
but it just happens. So I like to put a little bit of number in there depending on what it is. I would say for 1.6, maybe 10,000, 5 to 10,000, somewhere around in there. Just to conservatively underwrite it, right?
Yeah, I usually either throw 500 or 1,000 per door, just as a reserve that I
Okay.
had in my mind, not necessarily in the underwriting per se.
In the underwriting. All right. And then cost overrun, we'll do the standard 10% on that. Gross rent per month, vacancy rate about 10%. How do you normally do vacancy rate?
I do vacancy at 10%. Yeah, just to be
Okay.
super cautious.
Any other income like pet rental fees, or is there a washer and dryer kind of commonplace on the property? Anything like that?
Nope. Not currently that they're charging for now.
Okay. Do you have an itemized operating expense, or
I have super high levels. I have taxes, insurance, and utilities. That's all they've given in the OM.
okay? So we'll just do a 50%
It's a good place to
operating
start. Yeah.
expenses. And then these are your long-term projections, right? So 3% appreciation. There's probably more than that here in the last year or so. Income increase, expense increase. And then when you exit the property, the selling cost, right? So 6% on the sales price there. This does factor in depreciation deduction on the long-term projections. We would need to deduct the value of the land because you can't depreciate the value of the land. Maybe if you have the right CPA, you can deduct the value of the land. Scott, any idea what the land is worth? Not the improvements, but just the land?
No. I don't know. 300,000.
Okay. By the way, sometimes if the land value is part of the county records or public records, DealCheck will automatically pull those in there into that. So I don't have to save this or do anything. It's doing all the calculation in the background. And so I'm going to go through this right here. It shows the photos, right? Those were strictly imported from when we did the import of the property, the map location that we now know is not in a flood zone, right? But then we get to the analysis and we already know it doesn't hit our criteria, right? It doesn't hit any of them. But let's dive into why. All right. So typically it is the purchase price that comes with that. Cash flow. Wow. Okay. So you can own this property at 1.6 million by paying $24.41 a month. Not the kind of deal I want to do. Right? How about you, Scott?
No, don't think so.
All right. Let's kind of scroll through here and just look. Operating expenses might be a little high. Loan payments is probably what's going to get it, right? So we're at 7%.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a note. I want to go back and we're going to change that interest rate just to see what happens. We already know this buy and hold projections is going to be ugly, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to scroll down here to the very bottom to see if we ever cross over this red line, and we never do. So this is a really horrible deal at 1.6 for what we know, right?
Yep.
Now there are a couple here's what I like about this offer calculator is I was going to say it probably says deal not possible. But if it were, it would come in here and we could instantly tap this button and it would put the highest offer we were allowed in there. And so but let's play around with this for a little bit. Let's go to the purchase worksheet.
Well, before we start playing with things, what are the
Yeah.
Projections that it did for the rents? Because I think I saw in there, it seemed like it had the potential rents as a little higher than I thought. The rental comps.
Rental comps. Okay.
Up.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All good. So it's estimating 1050 for what? Is it the 1 bedrooms or the 2 bedrooms?
It doesn't necessarily say. So let's look right here. We can look at, this is our subject property.
Right, and that's what they're renting it out for now, right? 2 1s at 700.
So we've got, is this part of the same, the 1837, 1807, is that part of the same block? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a block over, but yeah, they're next door.
But not part of the same complex.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so they're getting 895,
Yeah.
995 for a 2-2.
Because I think with Rentometer, I came up with 875 for the 2 1s and 800 for the 1 1s. As essentially what I was kind of seeing as a potential, that we could get raised to.
Okay, 875 for the 2-1, and then what was the 1-1?
800.
800. Okay. Okay.
Which that may also be the way we could, like, it doesn't really give you the option in here, right, to have like the current versus the
Versus the future.
projected. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, but we can go in and change it real quick.
Right. That purchase worksheet.
Yeah. I was gonna look here. So you don't want to change the interest rate at all because it's probably going to be around 7.
Yeah.
Period. Okay. This is this. All right. So let's make an assumption that we can take the 2 1s to 875. And we can take the 1 1s to 800. Right. All right.
Yeah.
Let's go back. All right. Now we're passing the 1% rule, but we're not really doing anything else.
Jay, what do you typically use to do that, to just check rent comps? Is it apartments.com or if it was what do you usually do?
I typically check a few different sources. One of them is DealCheck, right? If you saw this here, this where you kind of see this. So this RentCast is a sister company of DealCheck, so they're integrated with one another. Rentometer is another one. Sorry, this is Zoom window is bugging the crap out of me. Rentometer is another one. There is a free and a paid version of this. The other thing too that you can do is just call like a local property manager if you wanted to go that route. But for this scenario where we're just doing like a real high level kind of napkin test, I just rely on what DealCheck pulls. It is a little high. It does seem a little high here, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if we if we were able to change the square footage, because that's where it's getting a lot of its
Right.
information from, right? Did the property description have 900 square feet? All right, so let's change that. Be great if this had the ability to pull that from the description, wouldn't it? That'd be kind of cool.
Would be nice, yeah. So the 2 1s are 900 square feet.
So let's assume the 1 1s are 600, 700. What do you think?
700, probably 700. Or 799, that works.
Did I do 99? I
You
didn't mean to do 99. It's not a sale at Walmart. Come on. All right, Scott, do y'all have Walmart in California?
No, we don't. I think there's one a couple hours away.
Really?
We're Targets out here.
Okay. That didn't do anything, but put up a confusing number.
Yeah, that's an interesting number.
Oh, gross rent based on the entire property. Okay, makes sense. Does that, who was that Cynthia?
Did I ask
I
the
think-
question?
Yeah, did you
Yes,
ask the
yep.
question? Okay.
That was me.
Yeah, Rentometer or Rentcast is two of those options.
Rentcast, CAST.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Rentcast.io. Okay. All right, Scott. So we've got probably more. Didn't mean to do that. More accurate rents, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And we're still not hitting that number. We're getting close. I mean, we shaved off
50%, like
yeah,
$1,500 worth of
a little bit more than, yeah, but we're still not there. So what do you want to do from here?
I would lower the purchase price, right? So I was initially just assuming, right, a 1.4 to be where we would even start.
Okay. I'm going to remove the 50% rule just to see.
Okay.
Okay.
$1 million.
That says at $1 million, right? But that's based on our other investing criteria, right?
Yep. Yep.
But let's just put it at 1.4 and see what happens. Now, after repair value, even though we're not necessarily repairing anything, you're doing the value add because you're increasing the rents, right?
Right.
So it could,
Who knows?
could be, it could go up in value, but for the sake of this exercise, we're going to leave it as the same as a purchase.
Yeah.
Let's do the analysis. All right. We're getting closer.
Right.
Now we're positive cash flow, but it's $99 a month for, what was it, 22 units?
16. Oh, no, you're right. Yeah, 22. So yeah, not much.
So $2 was that $4.50 a year? Yeah, not very good. The I am curious. Let's go to purchase worksheet and let's just change the interest rate. Let's just say they come down to 6.5, right? I was hoping this would turn into a green check mark, but it did not. Didn't really, well, came up a little bit. Yeah.
But it was
Cap
interesting
rates.
removing that 50% rule that it, put in an offer basically at $1 million, that was kind of your upper ceiling.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, this is probably what sold me on DealCheck is you can put all in your information in here and just say, oh, here's what your highest offer is. You tap on that, save as a new price. It updates the entire worksheet. Now, sometimes it'll come back and it'll say, okay, well, actually, after we put in the new value because of the percentages and the ranges you were at, you can actually go 10 grand higher, 20 grand higher. Like it'll update this side too. But let's see. You bet, Rudy. You bet. We're going to do this for a few more weeks for sure. Property analysis. All right. So here we go. So now we're at $2,200 a month in cash flow, 8.6% cap rate, 8.7 cash on cash.
That's crazy because that's what the OM says that it's being offered at 1.6. Just insane.
Well, the old saying, Scott, is that buyers are liars and sellers are storytellers. So,
all right. Yes.
Yeah, you have to be careful. I mean, I've run into realtors who, when they mention the word cash flow, they're meaning gross revenue.
Right.
It's not the same thing. I got into an argument with, and I'm going to use the air quotes, influencer on one of those social media platforms about this whole thing. Like, gross revenue is not cash flow. They are entirely separate things. And so you also have realtors out there who don't know how to calculate cap rate or how to project cap rate. So it is a real, like, understanding. I mean, it's a real pain. That's why you want to grab the data, put the data up against your purchase criteria and your underwriting, and make sure it hits it. And if it does, submit your LOI, right? Now,
Yep.
I have a rule, and those of you who are in here who are in the mastermind know that if I spend time underwriting a property like this one, I would take a few more minutes because I got an LOI template, and I would put, 1,050,000 into an LOI and float it over.
No.
But here's the thing, you got to remember, so like that's with us getting market rents up to speed.
Right.
Right. And so we've got a big jump there at 700. We're going to take them to 875. So it's going to take a year, maybe a little longer to be able to do that. Right. So you got to calculate in either you're going to, let's do that. Let's play around with that for a minute.
Because this is where Tom was talking about, right, in terms of being able to slowly grow those rents up over time, right? Because ideally, I want to be underwriting to like the actuals and stuff right now versus trying to underwrite and purchase the thing to the prices and the rents we're going to be at in 2 years.
Correct. What do you know what their 1-1s are renting for?
They had them at
625.
650. 1-1 for 650.
Okay. Yeah, so now your new offer's at 750, right?
Yeah.
If you're buying on today's numbers.
Right.
And that's, one of the things I get frustrated with is because and Scott, you and I've talked about this where, I've looked at properties and where I said earlier, hey, I've done my underwriting. I'm going to do myself, I kind of pat myself on the back, and my reward is submitting that LOI.
Right.
There are times where I will just tell the broker, hey, I'm not your buyer for this property. What I mean by that is I'm buying for a certain amount of cash flow, right? And here is the value that I'm putting on that property, and it's at, 1,050,000, right? Or 750, whatever the case is. But the ideal buyer for this property might be somebody who's sitting on 1.6 million of 1031 exchange money.
Yep.
Right. And that 1031 exchange is about to expire if they don't go ahead and identify and put it to use. So their tax hit on that 1.6 could be greater than the cash flow that they're going to lose if they don't put it to work. Right. So that's what I mean. There's different buyers for different reasons. John, got your hand up.
Yes. Am I being too simplistic when I look at a property like this? I simply look at, is it structurally in good condition? And I just, no matter how many doors it is, I break it down into per door and then all in per door. And can I beat the 1% rule? I'm a big 1% rule guy. I'm just, and I don't deep dive a lot more than that. If it doesn't beat the 1% rule, I have zero. I don't dive any deeper. Like, zero interest. Am I being too simplistic there? I know I realize the interest rates, especially right now, do factor in flood zones and stuff like that. But when I just look at it per door. Can I beat that per door?
Yeah.
1% rule.
I think where you have an advantage is, do I think you're being too simplistic? No, I do not. I do that as well. Right. So I'll break it down. This is 22 doors. Right. I am going to break out my calculator because I can't do this math in my head, but there's 1.6
like 70 something K or something. It's like 75,000 or something, right? 70 something thousand.
73,000 per door. And are they getting more than that to hit the 1% rule? In this case, no. Right. But here's where I think you have an advantage over that is you invest in a very particular market. You are familiar with what the tax structure is. You're familiar with what insurance costs, and you know that 1% rule is going to be a home run for you every time, right? But there are scenarios where that taxes may be higher or excuse me, lower, and it throws that 1% rule out of whack. Is it a good, quick napkin test? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so now I don't think you're being simplistic. I think you're very in tune with what's going on in your market and very in tune with your buying criteria. And so no, it's not this is if like going through something like this or using a spreadsheet, which I'm not going to have time to show y'all today, will help you get a better picture, right?
So like I would say also like in this market, right, all the stuff that we have picked up has been at the 1% rule or just a little bit better, John. And that is essentially like a break even roughly in this kind of MSA. So if you hit the 1% rule, you're probably going to need to exceed that a little bit more to actually get some cash flow off of things.
Yeah. Unless you're just buying for tax advantages or whatnot, you know?
Yep. Yep.
What else? Anybody else have questions? Did I miss anything in the chat? Brendan, hello. He snuck in there. Daryl, hello. I didn't see you guys earlier. Sorry about that. Sergey,
So,
hello.
Jay, I have a question about
Okay.
DealCheck. I'd heard of it, but I have not been in it. Before I had signed up for Bigger Pockets, but this looks like it may be more robust. Do you pay for this? Do you have an annual subscription? Is this kind of the best software that you've seen that you use?
I'm like you. I started on Bigger Pockets and their deal calculator, right? And I quickly outgrew that. Matter of fact, there is probably an email somewhere from about 8 years ago where I messaged Mr. Turner and I said, hey, it would be really cool if y'all updated your calculator to include this highest offer. Like I can just click a button and know where I want to go, right? And so when I found DealCheck, that is what sold me on it. And I was just like, this is going to make my life so much easier. And the way that they import data it just makes it a lot easier. And so it is a subscription. You sign up for free. And then there's a monthly or annual subscription you have. Last week they sponsored the underwriting call. And so I've got 2 subscriptions I can give away. And so we might do that today. And Cynthia, hopefully you can, you get lucky enough to get one of those, but it's a lifetime subscription. It's a lifetime subscription.
Oh my.
So you sign up, they put a $3,000 value on it, which I think is worth more than that, but I think, but I have to rely on, what they provide me, but, that's what these little cards here are on. And I'm glad they blurred out, cause I think I just showed y'all the codes to get the lifetime subscription, but I got a couple of those we can give away today as well.
Would that just be random giveaway?
Yeah. So everything we're doing is random giveaway. Dre is going to be putting everybody's name into the wheel of names, and we're going to spin it a couple of times here in just a minute. Dre, how is that coming along? We got everybody liking the post and everything that you can tell.
Yeah, I've tracked, and aside from me and you, there are like 6 who like the post.
Yeah,
Let me just post it again.
okay. Scott number 2 needs the LinkedIn thingy. Scott, are you trying to double your chances to win by joining multiple times?
Spin the wheel now.
Wait.
Well, does anybody else have a question about the deal we underwrote? Scott, what do you think? If nobody does, Scott, I'd like to ask you, what do you think, what are you going to do about this property?
Well, I am committed and supposed to be sending LOIs in each week, so I will probably kick over a lowball offer to this broker.
Nice.
Anyway, the 1.4 I think is somewhat of what I'm generally thinking. to kind of meet in the middle between, the actuals versus the projected. But
Okay.
I would not expect to get any positive answer back at that number.
At 1.4. I think you'd surprise yourself.
Well,
I know
so
you keep
Scott,
getting me stuff.
so Scott, does that mean, so if you put in an offer at 1.4, according to this DealCheck, you're not cash flowing. So is there something else you're thinking that would help you cash flow?
Yeah, so it's going to be those expenses, right? Like right now, it's a super rough, like 55% expense ratio that's in there. There's some more numbers that are in there, kind of actual T12 that brings that down. That's a bit high, and that's even in my experience for what we're holding in the Kansas City area. That's slightly high, but I would probably spend some more time in a bigger Excel sheet to figure out what those actual expenses were and what I would project the taxes and insurance and things like that to be. There's also, for full transparency, there's some other items that we can do in there to lower those expenses, specifically around the owner is paying a bunch of utilities right now. And I think that could be an easy one that we could fairly quickly, over like the course of a year, start kicking, water back to them first, then kick gas or something back to them the next year. So I think that there's some more stuff in there that could make this actually workable at that number.
Yeah. And so like, I don't know, Scott. So I changed the purchase price to 1.4 and I lowered the operating expenses to 40%.
And what are we still limited by?
You're still getting $460 a month on cash flow.
Yeah.
And so there, those are some hidden savings, right? So there's a couple of different ways you can do that with utilities. Is obviously the kind of low hanging fruit. Another one that I've been a part of, we bought the property. It was being assessed at 1.2 or 1.5. We bought it at 700. And so when we went to the county, of course, we had to send them, a 500 sheet workbook of the leases and everything that we had on the property, our closing statement and whatnot. And they, I think we hit a home run with that one. They lowered our tax bill in half, right? So that was a huge win as well. So there are ways to lower the price, but I struggle at 1.4. Of course, this was at the lower rents, right? Let's look at, yeah. And so let's assume 875 is currently the market for the 2.2, and it was, I can't read my own handwriting. I think it was 800. Okay. So let's go back to the property analysis. Now it looks a little better. Looks a lot better. Right? If you can get the expenses down, you can get the rents up, which is the name of the game, right? For any property, expenses down, rents up, train your tenants to be happy.
It's still a difficult one for me in terms of picking it up, not being at those numbers and trying to operate it possibly like at a loss or like a pure break even for a year or something to get to that numbers. That used to be my strategy. Right now, I can't afford that strategy anymore.
Yeah.
We'll see. That might change. That might not.
Let's see what if we did that. Let's just go to the offer calculator. All right, so it's in the neighborhood, right? If you're buying on futures of lowered expenses, you're getting expense ratio down to 40%, and you're buying on the market rents being in place, right? It'd take you a year and a half, depending on how aggressive you want to be at that, to get to 1.3. So you're in the ballpark. The other thing that we don't add in here is, if you get super aggressive on increasing rents, you're going to have some folks move out, right? And which means you're going to have turnover costs. Even cleaning, getting a carpet shampooed, oh my gosh, is expensive these days, right? So everything's kind of inflated. So just be thinking about that as if you're seriously looking at this. Yeah, of course I like the 750 number that we saw earlier.
Me too. Me too. I don't think Alex would ever talk to me again.
Yeah.
So Jay, what's the cash on cash return that you look for?
We look typically at 8%. And that's just because when we compare, personally, I've gotten away from buying, or not gotten away from, I've been focusing more on doing private money lending to where we're getting, 10 and 12%, essentially cash on cash return. So
Yeah.
we've been focusing on that. But if somebody sends me a deal where, they're looking for LPs, I'll put it through here like when we look at multifamilies or any kind of where we're actually purchasing the property, you're going to operate at 8% is kind of our minimum. Because one thing you get when you invest in multifamilies, hopefully, right, if you're buying in that appreciating asset type, is while you may get the 8% cash on cash return, the kicker that you should get in 3 to 5 years, or could be 7, is that equity multiple. Right now, you don't get an equity multiple when you're doing hard money lending or private money lending, and that's kind of where those make up for one another, right?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yep.
What do you have in here on your criteria? Can you go to the analysis and see what because you have a cash on cash per door criteria, cash on cash percentage, right?
Yep.
Where are your criteria in there?
So I'll skip to this. I've got the 1% rule. I took that out for that deal. I had cash flow per unit at $100 per month, cash on cash at 8%. Yep. I also, the debt coverage ratio is at least 1.2, because that's what most banks are going to look at is 1.2 or 1.25.
Yep.
What's the 50% cash flow? 50% of what?
So the
What
50% rule, yeah,
Uh-huh.
it basically says if you take your gross income and you divide it in half, that half of that is going to go toward your operating expenses.
Okay.
And the other half is available for, everything else that happens in the property.
Got it. Thank you.
Including loan payments, right? That doesn't include your loan payments.
Correct. Yeah. I think I just kicked John out. What just happened? There he is. Did not mean to do that.
And then I assume that with this DealCheck, you're able to have get a report, retrieve a report from it. Is that right?
You bet.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at that, and I'll. Is this property at the very bottom over here on the left-hand side? You have this reports and sharing, and so this interactive report link, you can do that one. I'd like sending out the PDF report, and you can view or download it. But if we just tap on view, it's going to produce this lovely thing, which I'm going to drop in the chat, and you guys should be able to tap on it. I don't know why that says blob. Is that? That's on me, isn't it? Somebody let me know if you tap on that link, if it goes out.
It will not. You'll have to remove the blob colon on it. It's because of the way it generated and loading it in your browser.
Try that one. All right. You guys want to do some giveaways? No? Nobody wants to do that? What
yes,
percentage?
let's do giveaways.
Celeste says, what percentage are you estimating for tenant move out once you increase the rents? This highly depends. It depends on the property, right? It depends on how much you're looking to go up, what percentage you're going up. We've got a value add project we're doing now that we're taking from 550 up to 700. And there are some tenants who have been there for 13 years and they've never had rent go up on them before, right? And so it's hard to come in, you know, when they're on a fixed income and say, oh, well, your rent's going up $150 a month. And so what we've been doing is as leases come up for renewal, we go up, I think it's 25, might even be $50 per month. And so we're being a little bit more cautious of that. But as people move out, and we've had some move outs, we instantly take them to 700 and we've had no problem leasing those. Celeste, probably the best story I heard, there's a group in the mastermind, they bought a 9-unit and rents were, I think, 700 and their target was 1,300. They took everybody up to 1,200 and everybody except for one person stayed, except for one unit stayed because they couldn't get anything cheaper anywhere else, right? And so you find these tired landlords who have owned these properties for decades, never went up on rent because they didn't want to, and they're just way below market. Then, you know, the tenants have been taking advantage of that, you know, for some time, and they know, and if they've been there for a while, it feels like home. Probably not going to move out anyway. It's just one of those things where there's a huge opportunity there for the new folks to come in. Cynthia says you can't see the link. Let me share this one, this interactive report link, and see if you can see it. All right, Dre, do you have everybody in the wheel of names? You ready to do some screen sharing?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I've got 9 of our attendees out of the
9.
14.
Who's
Yeah.
not in there? Tom Latu, I
John,
bet he's not one of them. John
30.
doesn't have it. I know John doesn't have Instagram or LinkedIn, so I understand that.
And then we also don't have Daryl.
Daryl Hernandez, I know you're on LinkedIn, man.
I am on LinkedIn. Did I need to drop my link? I'm sorry.
No, just go. I'm going to post this link in the chat and you go and just like it.
Oh, all right.
And that's it. And then, who else? Dre?
We also don't have Rudy, but I think Rudy's not here anymore, and Ray.
Yeah, Rudy dropped off.
Yeah. And
Okay.
then Ray. Someone joined named Ray.
Ray's not here anymore. Okay. All right. Can you share your screen, Dre?
Yep, sure. I'll just put in Grady. Oh, I think there's one name that's been added here. Just a moment. I'll just add his name.
Jack. We're not going to give it to Jack. He wasn't here the entire time. These folks, we're not doing that. All right. While Dre's getting us set up there and is going to share her screen for the wheel of names, I'm going to drop several things in the chat as I clean this up. Man, this looks bad. Let's see. Dre, whenever you're ready, I'm just trying to fill dead airspace because it annoys me when we're on Zoom and we're hearing each other
There's
breathe.
one name that's still not popping up. I'm sorry. Yeah, Daryl. Yeah, there he goes.
Okay.
Just a second. I'll just share my screen.
And guys, I want to highlight again, Steadily Insure. They are the ones giving away today. They actually, as of this week, insure 20 of our 21 self-managed rentals. And so they do a really awesome job, except for if you're in Florida. Tom, I know I saw your post in the community about Florida property. They don't have a carrier that they would recommend in Florida, unfortunately.
It's a big issue everywhere.
Yeah. But a couple things I want to drop in the chat. Dre, go ahead and spin. We're going to spin for the Steadily Insurance $250 Amazon giveaway. Who's
Okay.
going to be the big winner?
Okay. You just spin it.
Yep. Just tap. Dre and I did not practice this, by the way. So
Yeah.
we need like Wheel of Fortune. Thomas Latugo. Look at that. You are going to be able to leave your job sooner than you wanted to, right? All because of that. Let's see. And I've got 2 lifetime accesses to DealCheck here. Let's give those away too. So let's spin the wheel one more time. This one's going to, we need some music next time, Dre. Like Jeopardy or, all right, Scott doesn't count. Scott already has access. So we're going to spin it one more time. You okay with that, Scott? Or do you want one to give away?
I'm good with that. No, I'm good. Thanks.
Scott just wants a space heater right now.
That is true. Well, I have one. I'm just not allowed to turn it on.
Okay. All right. Joseph, congratulations, sir. Joseph.
How cold is it, Scott?
It's freezing here. It's like, 45. It's terrible. Can't live in this. Yes, I've grown soft.
Awesome. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop a link into the chat for DealCheck. And like I said, it's free to try, but it's 25% off if you use the promo code W2CAP. I think actually you can just click on that link and it's applied anyway. And then Steadily, guys, I've been severely impressed with Steadily. I did not enter a partnership with them until I saw them at work, and I don't want to bore you guys with the details, but they helped us out in a jam on our 16 unit. We got a last minute notification that our insurance was essentially going up 50% for annual premium, and they came in and not only beat that from a pricing standpoint, but they also provided us better coverage. They increased the coverage on the property. So, but that's it, guys. Yeah, Eric says that's shorts and t-shirt weather. Scott, one thing like these Midwesterners and Northeasterners don't understand is as Floridians and Californians, we do not acclimate to cold weather. Okay. It takes time. And so these cold fronts, they come in where it dips below 50 degrees for like a week. It is freezing. Okay.
Right.
Everybody it is.
Yeah, it takes me some while to get back into that mode. The other problem is that I'm not used to having the inside of my house be 45 degrees. Like that's just, that's a marriage thing.
That's a marital issue. Yeah. All right, y'all. Joseph, Thomas, you guys reach out to me. I've got your email. And I'm going to write down our winners so I don't forget.
Great call, Jay. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Yeah,
good
thanks.
to see you. Yeah, Joseph, glad you joined too. Joseph, if you don't hear from me in the next couple of days, please reach out. And somewhere along the line, my email got lost to your inbox. Tom, like you said earlier, I know where you live. So we're giving us some amazing prizes away in this Will It Cash Flow series. These calls happen on Wednesdays at 1:00 Central about our sponsors, Steadily, DealCheck, PropStream, Lake Growth Financial, and Hemlane. Thankful for all of them. Those are actually all products we use. Lake Growth Financial is my certified financial planner. Steadily actually insures 20 of our 21 self-managed rentals. DealCheck is the property analyzer calculator you're going to get to see that we use to underwrite properties. Hemlane is the property management software we use for our self-management. And then PropStream is an analytical software that we use to find properties or help with some of the underwriting as well. If you want to know more about any of these folks, you can scan this QR code, or you can simply go to w2capitalist.com, and there's a tab at the top that says product we use.